Right, and Private China standing at his right.
And on Mr. Stevens' right are two figures. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. To Mr. Stevens' right, there are two figures.
And one is Private Shine.
Yes, sir.
And further to Mr. Stevens' right is Colonel Bradley.
Standing sideways.
It would take someone with clairvoyance to know to whom Secretary Stevens is looking, would it not?
No, sir, I don't think so. It would take somebody with common sense who can look at a picture and see what's in it.
I think I observe on Colonel Bradley's face a faint little look of pleasure. Do you, sir?
I would say that I know that Colonel Bradley had a good steak dinner shortly after this. Maybe he was anticipating it. I do know that Colonel Bradley looks to me as though he, too, is looking at Private Shine.
Well, now, if Bradley is feeling good about a steak dinner, Shine must be considering a whole haunch of beef, is he not?
Mr. Chairman.
Your point of order?
Yes, it's a point of order. How long must we put up with this circus? If counsel is trying to elicit information, good. If he's looking for a laugh from the audience, if he wants to talk about any physical defect of my chief counsel, it's so indecent, so dishonest. I'm not talking about any physical defect which Counsel Welch may have. I do not intend to. Let's get down to the issues, Mr. Welch. Each minute, Mr. Chairman, may I point out, each minute we waste here is wasting a vast amount of manpower, very important manpower, I think, the manpower of 8 senators and the heads of our military establishments.
In these proceedings, to the best of my knowledge, for the first time in our history, our people have been urged to entertain serious doubts as to the dedication and loyalty of our armed forces from top to bottom.
This is a letter signed Dwight D. Eisenhower, addressed to the Honorable, the Secretary of Defense, Washington, D.C. Dear Mr. Secretary, it is essential to the successful working of our system that the persons entrusted with power in any one of the 3 great branches of government shall not encroach upon the authority confided to the others. The ultimate responsibility for the conduct of the executive branch rests with the President. However, throughout our history, the President has withheld information whenever he found that what was sought was confidential or its disclosure would be incompatible with the public interest or jeopardize the safety of the nation. Because it is essential to efficient and effective administration that employees of the executive branch be in a position to be completely candid in advising with each other on official matters, and because it is not in the public interest that any of their conversations or communications or any documents or reproductions concerning such advice be disclosed, you will instruct employees of your department that in all of their appearances before the subcommittee of the Senate Committee on Government Operations regarding the inquiry now before it, they are not to testify to any such conversations or communications or to produce any such documents or reproductions. I direct this action so as to maintain the proper separation of powers between the executive and legislative branches of the government in accordance with my responsibilities and duties under the Constitution. This separation is vital to preclude the exercise of arbitrary power by any branch of the government. Sincerely, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Thank you. And the Pulpit Chair will recognize Senator McCarthy or Mr. Cohn.
Mr. Chairman, I must admit that I'm somewhat at a loss as to know what to do at this moment. One of the subjects of this inquiry is to find out who is responsible for succeeding in calling off the hearing of communist infiltration in government. At this point, I find out there's no way of ever getting at the truth. The Iron Curtain is pulled down, so we can't tell what happened. There's no reason why anyone should be afraid of the facts The question is how far can, I'm not talking about the present occupant in the White House, but we've got a tremendously important question here, Mr. Chairman. That is, how far can the president go? Who all can he order not to testify? Then any president. We don't know who will be president 1956, 1960, 1964, any president. I won't repeat that. Any president can, by an executive order, keep the facts from the American people. And as I say, I don't believe that this is the result of President Eisenhower's own personal thinking. I am sure if he knew what this was all about, that he would not sign an order saying that you can't tell the Senate committee what went on when they cooked up those charges against Mr. Cohen, Mr. Carr, and myself. Someone, for his own benefit, should contact the president immediately and point out to him, perhaps, that he and I and many of us campaigned and promised the American people we would no longer engage in government by secrecy, whitewash, and cover-up. And I think that these facts should be brought to the president because the American people will not stand for this. Let's go through, let's lay all the facts upon the table. And we can't lay the facts upon the table if we're going to draw an iron curtain. And we're halfway through the hearing, so Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask for an executive session, a meeting in the committee, so I will know to what extent the committee is going to honor this order or any other order like it. May I say, Mr. Chairman, I feel that the Senate must determine that we're entitled to all of this information, and what Mr. Jenkins says here as counsel, what you say as chairman, can be quoted as precedent in the future when we decide just how far the president can go in a secrecy order. May I say that I think if the witness asserts a type of Fifth Amendment privilege here...
I'm not asserting Fifth Amendment privilege,
some
Senator.
presidential privilege, I think the chair should allow him to do it rather than to get into this question which will take us months to decide. Ultimately, may I finish, Mr. Chairman? I think this is infinitely more important than anything we bring out of this hearing. It's the question of just what a president can do. Now, I disagreed, as the chair knows, with the Truman Blackout Order of 1948. I think that Eisenhower has been badly advised. I think there's only one person can claim a privilege, whether it's a Fifth Amendment privilege, whether it's a presidential privilege,
Now,
or any
Mr.
other...
Chairman, just a moment, sir.
May I finish?
I don't like the senator from Wisconsin inferring that I'm claiming the Fifth Amendment privilege, because I'm not, and I'm not claiming any privilege on this memorandum. This is an instruction from the President of the United States, and I consider myself bound by it, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I say that I think it's very important that we follow the time-worn rule of law that no one can exert a privilege except the witness. I don't care whether it's a Fifth Amendment privilege, whether it's this new privilege that we have today, or what it is. Mr. Stevens, I am getting awfully weary of this attempt to get a few simple facts from you as though we're pulling teeth. We've spent just a vast amount of time here trying to get answers to some simple questions. The question is this. You made a statement this morning under oath. You say, I wish to make it perfectly plain that the decisions and the acts on the part of the Army concerning the controversy presently being heard by the Senate subcommittee were the decisions and the acts of the Department of the Army alone. Now, do you still stand by that statement?
I do.
Do you say that John Adams was not telling the truth when he said that the decision was made in the Justice Department with White House aides present, with the Attorney General present, the Deputy Attorney General present, the Ambassador to the UN present? I'm sure that any man who can add 2 and 2, Mr. Secretary, will agree that that completely contradicts your statement that all decisions